Well, today we are going to continue this series of looking at royal family members in light of King Charles' cancer diagnosis. And today we're going to be looking at Queen Camilla's astrology chart. For those of you that have watched my previous few videos, we did the chart of King Charles, Prince William, and Prince Harry. The situation seems very serious. And as of today, as of recording this video, I just heard that Prince William even had to cancel an engagement because of a personal matter. So I feel like this is a really serious time. I did say, based on Prince William's reading, that there is a potential there for an ascendancy to the throne. So today we're going to be looking at Queen Camilla's chart to see what she could be experiencing during this time, and also see if we can get any more information about the situation as a whole. For those of you that are new to my channel, make sure you like and subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you can get all of my videos. I do quite a bit of royal family videos, but I also do monthly predictions, politicians, celebrities. So there's quite a bit of different videos I do. I practice Vedic sidereal astrology, which is the astrology of ancient India. So it's going to be different than Western tropical astrology. Your sign is likely going to be different. Our goal is 10,000 subscribers. Thank you very much for all your support. If you're interested in a personal private reading, check for details down below, of course. All right, so let's go ahead and we're going to take a look at Queen Camilla's chart. Let me go ahead and pull that up. Let's see, this is Queen Camilla's chart. Oops, I think I pulled up the wrong chart. I pulled up the chart that wasn't on paint so I can draw on it for everybody. So before we start, quick disclaimer, this reading is for entertainment purposes only, and we are just speculating as to the astrological energies, and these are all allegedlys. Let's go ahead and take a look here. For those of you that have seen my prior videos on Queen Camilla, you'll know that she's Cancer ascendant, and King Charles is Cancer ascendant as well, so they have that in common. Before you all, before I get comments on there's a different ascendant. Remember, this is Vedic sidereal astrology. So one of the things I want to point out, we're going to talk about the planetary timeline that Queen Camilla's on. She's in a Saturn Antardasha, so we're really going to break that down because that has so much relevance to what's going on. And then I'm also going to tell you what that means. This is the glyph for Saturn right here. So this is the karma that's extremely active right now. Queen Camilla entered this Saturn Antardasha. That was back in July. So July 13th, 2023. So this last summer. And she's going to be in this period until September 12th of 2026. So we really need to study what Saturn is about in Queen Camilla's chart to understand, what could be the effects of this planet. And first, before we even look at the house rulerships, and we can notice that Saturn's next to Sun, is we also want to just take a look at what does Saturn represent in a general way. That's the first thing you look at any time type of planetary timeline. So let me pull up a slide for you to help you learn a little bit. So Saturn, we have the period here, July 13, 2023 to September 12th, 2026. So she's well within this period now. Now, Saturn, what it represents, and just like I say on the slide, it's the planet of heavy karma. It usually represents karmic debts that we owe to people. And so it can feel very harsh because, when we're paying back karmic debts in relationships, it doesn't feel good. It represents old age. It represents solitude, coldness, hard work, limited resources, servitude, limitation, restriction, delay. So all those types of, descriptors right there is going to be something that Queen Camilla is experiencing right now. She might feel very alone with this, even though I'm sure there's plenty of royal staff and the royal family. She might feel very alone in dealing with this because, well, she's the wife of King Charles, so she might feel very alone. Saturn can feel very harsh. And then Saturn reminds us of the fragility of human existence because the very definition of Saturn represents especially time and how finite it is on this earth school that we're in. And so it really represents this idea of impermanence, and it really makes it hit home for us. Now, Saturn is usually associated with the lower chakras, so it represents fear and anxiety. That's the biggest, just like the karmic nodes, Rahu and Ketu do. So definitely remember the planets, sorry, are they're also influencing how you feel, how you're perceiving these events. Um, Now, Saturn brings in a lot of seriousness. It's all about the seriousness of life. And let me show you in the chart here how this is the rulerships of Saturn. So we're going to take a look at a few things. First of all, Saturn, we have to remember within Queen Camilla's chart, Saturn is a malefic planet for Cancer ascendant. So here's Saturn right here. I mean, Saturn can bring about, because it's in the first house, it could bring its own health challenges for Queen Camilla. Okay, so you got to be aware of that. It could bring in a lot of challenges. The eighth house can represent like psychiatric issues, anxiety, depression, things like that. Remember, this is for entertainment purposes only. But it's in the first house, so it can definitely bring in those emotions as well. And this is not even looking at the King Charles part of the equation of this as well. And keep in mind that Saturn, we got to look at the houses it rules. It rules the seventh house of marriage. So marriage. So definitely the marriage is very serious, and it's on the 4. Also keep in mind that it's aspecting the seventh house of marriage as well. So it rules the seventh house, it's aspecting the seventh house, and then it rules the eighth house of Aquarius here. Okay. So the eighth house represents the sudden and shocking things. And in extreme cases, Saturn can represent the end of an incarnation for a spouse. It's in extreme cases, but I feel like since we know that the media is being pretty quiet, we don't have any news on how bad the cancer is. We don't really know a lot right now. I'm tending to think with this type of planetary placement, it's quite serious, because based on the other charts I've been able to look at, it looks like a very serious situation. So I would definitely say this Saturn period is definitely there's a lot of red flags here, or at least there's this idea of crisis and danger, the danger zone. Okay, especially emergencies. So if you think about it, eighth house represents emergencies, and then seventh spouse. So it's almost like an emergency for the spouse. We could interpret this as, and keep in mind that eighth house, it represents death and rebirth. Okay, so there is very negative connotations to the eighth house. Saturn is also next to Sun in Queen Camilla's chart. So we're going to talk about that for a moment. Sun rules the second house of Leo over here. And those of you that are new to Vedic astrology, the second house, it does actually represent the social material level of a second marriage. So let me explain that for a second. The seventh house, it represents marriage in general. And a lot of times, specifically, it can represent your first marriage partner, even though it still has a general indication over all of your marriages. But the second house is literally the house of a second marriage. So we look at the second house to somewhat get more information about the difference between the first marriage and the second marriage. So notice it's the second lord, which represents the second marriage. And look, so Saturn is next to Sun. So Saturn is suppressing the Sun. Okay, so the Sun in a lot of ways represents King Charles as well. And not to mention the symbolic representations of what the Sun represents as royalty, leadership, and those kind of ideas. So this is a quite serious period. Now, the other thing I want to bring up, and let me pull up the slide because I do have a couple other comments that I really want to make on this, is Saturn is also in the eighth house, and we'll talk about that in a moment here. So I talked about all that stuff in the slide. Saturn is next to Sun, what is ruler of the second house. The second house represents the second marriage. I say second marriage within a marriage. I think that's a little bit of a typo. The eighth lord can bring up problems for the spouse. In rare cases, it can bring about the end of an incarnation for for a spouse. And this amplifies the seriousness of this period for Queen Camilla. Absolutely. So let me talk about the Saturn transit over in Aquarius, because remember, the Saturn transit in Aquarius that started in January of 2023 and is going to continue till March of 2025. I got to remember all this stuff. Let me pull the chart back up here. So transiting Saturn, and remember, when you're in a planetary timeline of Saturn, this is again going to be the most important transiting planet for you. Okay, so for Queen Camilla, this is going to be the most important transiting planet. So remember, Saturn is the eighth lord and it's in the eighth house, which is giving it like double to triple the potency of what it would already be pretty harsh if Queen Camilla was already in an eighth house period, but she's in an eighth house period where the ruling planet is actually going through the eighth house at the same time, which almost gives it double the triple the strength and power of what's going on. So this is where it's like, okay, this is really serious. An eighth house by itself represents emergencies. It represents full-on emergencies. When Saturn is going through the eighth house, and for it, it's doing it for anyone that's a Cancer ascendant or Cancer moon. So a lot of you that are watching, this is going to affect you as well. But this is a period of crisis and emergency. And in Queen Camilla's chart, there's definitely this idea of the eighth house. Saturn going through the eighth house could bring about a change of identity. One of the ways that our identity changes is through things that happen to our spouse. So when we get married, our identity changes. If there's an end of an incarnation for a spouse, our identity changes. So for example, if you became, you're single and then you're married, or you're married and then a widow or something like that. So eighth house represents those kind of changes. There's a change of some sort of status that's taking place, and it represents all of the fallout that's associated with those things. Now, I want you all to know that this is worst case scenario, obviously, but I do feel like eighth house, since it represents emergencies, I do feel like this is quite serious, this whole situation. Of course, we're going to want to look at the eclipses as important trigger dates for all of this stuff. So let me pull that up. And I talked about this in the other royal readings. The eclipse dates are always times where there can be triggers. Okay. So the eclipses are going to be happening March 25th. We got the lunar eclipse, April 8th, the solar eclipse, September 18th is the lunar eclipse. I feel like we're going to get news in Queen Camilla's chart that it's a pretty long period. So all of 2024, I feel like it was more acute in, especially Prince William's chart. Okay. We saw that the period was really short there. And then even in King Charles' chart, it showed between now and about June, the energies are very intense. But these eclipse dates can bring up some intense energy. So we're going to have to watch what's going on here. I'm really worried. We heard about Prince William canceling this event because of personal things. And I feel like this is getting, hopefully we don't get bad news about this, but I'm going to keep putting out videos. And we're just going to keep trying to track it as we find out more about the what's going on. But definitely all the charts are indicating that there could be some tremendous changes in the royal family, if worst case scenarios happen. So anyways, let me know what you're thinking. Comment down below, and take care, and I will see you all in the next video.